We've gained so many benefits from that. One, in terms of our application to hire, but also we've found so much value because of this panel. We're able to consider candidates for different areas, but then they don't have to interview individually each time. And it expedites the time that they're interviewing to hire. So it's been really effective.
Don't conduct your analysis in isolation because data is so incredibly powerful.
Not defending just the tribe, but defending the organization.
Those creative people that you really want to keep empowered, keep excited, keep motivated, keep thinking.
A good experience pays dividends down the line.
Stereotypes tend to break down in proximity.
Welcome to We're Only Human, a podcast about human resources, business, technology, and the workplace. My name is Ben Eubanks, your host, and I'm so glad you're here.
Hey everybody, welcome to We're Only Human. I'm so glad you're here with us. And so I'm going to be playing a fun conversation today. But before we get an interview with Sarah and share some of those things, I wanted to take a minute and talk with the one who made that conversation possible. So I had a chance to meet Rocky with The Filtered and hear some about the team, what they're doing, problems they're solving, all that good stuff recently. And he was actually the one who connected with Sarah from Enterprise, who you'll hear the podcast interview in a minute. But before we get to that one, I wanted to take a few minutes just to chat with Rocky about some of what they're doing, the problems they're solving, how they're supporting employers in the space like Enterprise and others. And so, Rocky, welcome. Glad to have you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ben. I'm glad to be here, and thanks for the invitation.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we talk about Filtered for a minute, I want to hear more about you. So what do you do? How do you spend your time?
Yeah, let's see. So I've been in software as a service for almost 20 years now. This is my third HR tech company that I've been a part of. Been through a few different exits, including Box.net and SuccessFactors. And I started out on the sales side. So I was an account executive, then a sales manager, then a VP of sales, and then a chief revenue officer, and then ultimately ended up going into the CEO route. So let's see. So I spent a lot of my time still, I would say, looking after what I would call customer or go-to-market relationships. So that's deciding where we budget for spend on marketing, as well as working with existing customers. So that's a big part of my job, is just the muscles that I've learned over a couple of decades in that part of the business. But another big part of my job as a CEO is to help with product. And so what a lot of what I do is talk with customers, talk with prospective customers, and try to get a read for what can we build that's going to deliver the most value long-term for them. And it also helps me get a good pulse on the market, like what other products are out there, what new and emerging problems are people trying to solve for. So I would say those are probably the two biggest buckets. And then there's also other ancillary stuff like payroll and insurance and kind of maybe more of the back office type stuff.
Okay, awesome. Well, it's funny that you mentioned the listen to customers piece because I'm speaking at an event tomorrow, and that's the first thing I'm going to tell other leaders like yourself who are working at some of the software companies is we've always heard this all our lives. Hey, you have two ears and one mouth. Listen twice as much as you speak. And I'm going to say, listen, I know it's very hard not to just jump in and say, we've got the answer to everything. Listen a little bit. And so I want to hear from you for a few minutes here. You've listened a lot. What is Filtered doing? What is the problem you're solving in the marketplace? And how are you working with employers to help them make sure they get the right candidates through their funnel as fast as they can so they can make better choices there?
Absolutely. Yeah. So, it's a great point. I think sometimes we tend to, especially growing up in the sales side, you tend to want to answer questions. You tend to want to sell, quote unquote, right? But in most cases, the best way to learn is to listen and to digest, and then maybe go back and ponder those things and then come back with a more cohesive strategy or solution. And so I would say a lot of what we do today has come from those customer conversations, especially the things we focused on in the last, call it 6 to 12 months. So as I was listening to customers and understanding sort of the new challenges in the market, a lot of it came from the introduction of AI solutions for candidates. And so it started about a year ago-ish, sort of when ChatGPT started to come on the market. And our system, the other thing that's unique about Filtered is the way we've designed it is it's essentially a proctored job simulation. So candidates are performing job-like duties, and then we're observing their behavior, both written as well as hard challenges. Could be software writing, could be writing samples, it could be performing duties on an Excel spreadsheet, right? So we have the combination of those two things. And what we started to see in our data was these little blips, like, all of a sudden, a percentage of candidates were going to ChatGPT and copying and pasting the question, and then copying and pasting the answer. And so it started out as a kind of a small percentage, and we kept our eye on it. But then over, obviously, the last 12 months, what we're seeing is the volume of candidates that are now using these tools is skyrocketing. And I think a stat you had was that 7 out of 10 candidates are now using AI for various things, from writing resumes all the way up to answering questions. And so even last week, we run a really high volume campus recruiting event for Informatica, like literally thousands of candidates. And what we're finding is it's not just ChatGPT, but there's all these other solutions like Final Round. I think there's another one called Max.ai, another one called Merlin. And so what I'm hearing from customers is like, how do we identify true skills? If it's too simple, they can answer it really quickly and get the right answer, right? So like they're passing things that were harder before. They're doing it in literally a matter of minutes, right? So a lot of what we do now today is to help companies parse through those activities, because some of those activities, if they're using AI, could be deemed as effective use of the new tools. There's some thoughts around that the future workforce 100% will be using AI tools to be more effective and efficient. But there's that line, right, where it's effective and efficient or just copying and pasting. Do they actually know why they're utilizing specific tools, and can they use them very effectively? So I would say what we do now, a lot of is a kind of a combination of fraud detection as well as effective use detection of AI technology. And what that allows us to do is help our customers find the very best candidates earlier in the interview process, move them and fast track them to hire, instead of the opposite, where a lot of tools just take a large population and then window them down to maybe a kind of a bigger population, but you still don't have that differentiation. And our claim to fame is really helping you find the best candidates super fast and then fast track them and get them off the market before someone else hires them. So
that's the one that I come back to all the time. I tell companies, listen, I know you got this really wonderful process you swear by that's like 7 steps, but the best candidates are the ones with multiple offers, or the ones who are going to be sucked out of that before you can even get them to that final stage. Totally. So you got to find some way to speed that up, to get better at that. And again, Sarah and I talk about some of that they're doing in enterprise to try to revise some of their approach to be better, to be smarter, to be faster when it comes to hiring. Yeah. So I appreciate you and the team for the work you're doing, for making it easier for TA and HR leaders out there, for recruiters that are trying to sort through all the resumes that are starting to look the same because of ChatGPT.
Yeah, absolutely.
So giving them a way to get to the right candidates and make that easier. So we appreciate y'all for partnering with us in the event last month, as well as just doing this kind of stuff, because I'm hearing from more and more leaders, just like you are, this is it's making the process harder. It's dragging it down. It's making it more difficult to sift through. And so we're having to go to, as employers, look for other ways to do that, including simple tests, job-related scenarios, those kind of things like we talked about, to make this better than just a resume and a more comprehensive selection. So kudos to y'all.
Yeah, the only other thing I'll add there is one of the things, and Sarah is a great example of this. So Enterprise has now won a Candy Award multiple years in a row for a great candidate experience. And one of the things we've been able to help them with is to cut their time to hire down by 50 to 75%. And a lot of it is because, like what I said before, we're helping them identify the best candidates first, so you can fast track those great candidates, get them a job offer super quick, and then there's less competition, obviously. And so I think that it doesn't necessarily have to be filtered, but I think technologies like ours do actually improve the candidate experience more than folks might actually imagine.
That's the thing that I'm glad you touched on that one, because when the number one objection, we ask employers, are you using tools like this? The number one objection is, well, we don't want to drag out the hiring process. We want to slow it down. And as you've shown, no, this actually can help us get faster through the process if we see them up front. We don't wait till the third interviews when we finally really understand who they are. No, like all that wasted time, all that slack in the hiring process, all the problems we've already identified. And just overall, we see that about 2 out of 3 candidates say they're consistently frustrated during the hiring process because they're trying to apply, they're trying to be seen, they're trying to be heard. They actually tell us in the data, like, if I had a choice between just submitting my resume and completing some sort of test or assessment, something to show what I'm about, I prefer that second path because they know that they're not expert resume writers. Like they do a job. Let me show you how I do my job and prove that I'm good. And either pick me or don't pick me based on that, not based on how well I or the person I paid or ChatGPT resume for this.
Right. Yeah. Show versus tell. I mean, I think it's another thing we think about a lot is show versus tell.
Excellent. All right. Awesome. Thank you, Rocky. Appreciate you for connecting us with Sarah as well. And we're going to segue into that conversation now. Hey, everyone. I'm so glad that you're here with us today. I'm so excited to have Sarah here with me. We're going to talk about emerging talent. We're going to talk about how to connect with your people and create better candidate experiences, all that kind of good stuff. Sarah, glad to have you. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Absolutely. So really quickly, before I dive into some of the good stuff and ask you more about yourself, thank you to the team at Filtered for connecting us together. They're doing good work. They're helping employers to find and select the best candidates in a quick way. And so we appreciate Rocky and their whole team for making this connection with Sarah. I love meeting amazing people, and we will let Sarah judge at the end if I'm an amazing person or not to be included in that. But so glad you're here with us. So for starters, before we get into some of the fun stuff we're going to talk about, Sarah, would you take a minute and tell the audience more about who you are and what you do, please?
Absolutely. So I lead the talent acquisition team for the information technology division at Enterprise Mobility. Absolutely love Enterprise Mobility as an organization. I started in our management training program, which is very common in our company. We have a promote from within culture, and a lot of people in our organization actually start through that management training program. Through opportunities, though, I was able to get my foot into talent acquisition many, many years ago now. And when I found my spot in TA, I felt like I found my home and where I could add the most value to the organization. So I've continued to grow within my TA career path and now leadership since then.
Oh, that's so much fun. I love that. I've heard lots of good things about the training program there at Enterprise, by the way. That's the thing that's just known in the industry broadly. That's something they do really well. So that's super cool to hear your perspective on it.
Great program.
You had told me a couple of times, right? I'd asked you some topics and things that are important to you. And you mentioned immediately, like right off the bat, was emerging talent. And I'd love to hear, like, of all the things you could have said, TA is a wide, wide world. Why is that one of the things that you're passionate about?
Well, a few reasons. I mean, for starters, that's how I came into this company, and I was continued to give opportunity. My leaders invested in me, my training and my development, which created opportunity. So I'm really passionate about being able to do that for others as well. In addition to that, on the TA side of the house, there's so many benefits that come from being able to hire emerging talent, bringing that fresh perspective into your organization, the new ideas and contributions our emerging talent population can make to our organization has been incredible. In addition to that, you have the ability to grow them, develop them. They absorb into your culture. They're hungry to learn and continue on their career journeys. So we found it to be really rewarding to bring that talent in and then be able to continue to grow them into the areas where we need talent in IT. It serves as a pipeline, a talent pipeline for our organizational needs.
Is there something in that space? So that's why it's exciting to you. Is there something in that space that y'all are doing? Like, we're really proud of this, or we're doing this thing that I think other companies should absolutely be copying because it's created incredible results and relationships?
Yes. So we have an incredible internship program here within the information technology division at Enterprise Mobility. It's a 10-week program, and it is highly engaging. It's very robust in terms of the agenda, training, exposure to leadership, networking opportunities. So throughout the course of the 10 weeks, they are integrated into teams where they're getting exposure to meaningful project work. They're not just coming in and doing, but then one day a week, they're with our team. And we have a whole 10-week outline of planned activities that's intentionally meant to help with their understanding of our organization, helping with both technical and professional competency development, exposure to our leadership team. And when I say our leaders are excited to take part in this, they are just as invested in our emerging talent population as the rest of our employee population. They always jump at the opportunity to get to spend time with our interns. We also take them out. Our home base for Enterprise Mobility is in St. Louis. So we do a whole community outreach day. And then we go around and visit different tech hubs and tech spots in the St. Louis community to give them exposure to things going on, not just within our company, but within St. Louis as well.
That's an incredible approach where it's not just the stereotypical, hey, have you gotten my coffee yet this morning? There's all these other things of adding value for them there throughout that entire process. And I hear a lot of companies say, oh, yeah, we expose them to leaders, but it's this very sort of tangential, like, oh, look, there's one over there. If you hurry, you can spot them, and then they're gone. What do the leaders do when they're engaging with them? Are they listening to these interns about what they're looking for in an employer? What's that conversation look like?
Yeah, so they engage in a few different ways. Some leaders come in and talk about their personal career journeys. So we'll typically have a whole panel of leaders that come in and talk about how they started, the experiences they had, what was helpful in their careers as they continue to progress. And then they also open it up for Q&A. What's important for the interns to ask them? What do they want to learn about? So we have panels with our leaders where it's just informational and it's informal, but it's an opportunity to get to know them and learn from them. They also attend our events. They love networking and spending time with them and just establishing more of those organic, real relationships with the interns, and encourage them and mean it when they say, if you have other questions or you want to learn more about what I've done, reach out, set up time with me. And the interns know they can do that.
For anybody listening in out there, by the way, one of the things that the data show is that when you're looking at sources of hire, interns that convert over into employees typically perform better. They stick around longer. I don't know if enterprises data show that or not, but just generally in the market, that's one of those things that you see overall. It's like a referral. They know enough about your company to say intentionally, yes, I want to work there. And so that's one of the values and benefits of this, not just in engaging with them as early talent and everything else, but saying once they are beyond that, they've grown out of that. If they want to continue with us, we're going to get extra benefits from them as an employee once they do potentially convert over.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, excellent. If someone's listening here and they're like, oh, this is actually sounds really interesting, or our internship program is like down here and we feel like Sarah's and enterprise team is up here. Any advice, any recommendations you'd give to our friends out here listening in on what they could do to maybe level up their own approach to connecting with interns, creating a more robust program, just building those relationships like you talked about here?
Yeah. So first, we start recruiting for our internship program in the fall. Typically by the holidays, our program for the next summer is full. And we have really strong university partnerships that we lean into. So we lean into our university partners to help with finding great talent to come to the program. But we have found that it's extremely competitive out there. And to find strong internship talent, you need to get in front of it early. So we're very intentional about that. And we understand it's a time commitment, but it's time very well spent and worth all of the investment. So I would make sure you're dedicating time from your team to allow for the 1 day a week we're on site with the interns and the planning components that go into that as well. And we've had this program in place for many years now, and it has a really good reputation. So in addition to our university partners, we've now established an incredible referral pipeline for our interns where we get tons of referrals, both from former interns, which is fantastic, as well as employees within our organization that are sending referrals our way to pipeline for the program. One other suggestion I have as it relates to emerging talent is we talked about intern conversions, and that is a goal for our program. When we're bringing talent into the internship program, we want to convert that talent. We want to find the right opportunity for them to continue their career journey upon graduation when they're ready to join our organization in a full-time capacity. And one thing we've worked hard at developing is when they convert, they've just gone through this incredible, very engaging program. We don't want them to come here and then feel like, now what? What's next? So we've also worked to create a great onboarding and assimilation program that is specifically for the emerging talent population, where once they join, they get an additional 12 months of focused development, focused training to help them continue to assimilate into our organization, because we want to make sure once they're here, we're continuing to set them up for success so that they can continue to grow.
I'm going to continue on that thread there for a little bit, if you don't mind, because one of the things that we find a lot of companies do, number one, everybody that comes on is treated the same when they're onboarding. Like, no, don't do that. You're missing a chance here. And you talked about really setting a separate track for them to run on so they know we're investing specifically into you because we want you to be more valuable a year from now. Like, you're great already. We want you to be even better a year from now, and we're going to invest in you to make that possible. But we also, one of the sessions we kicked off the day with talked about onboarding as this sort of personalized thing, not a compliance driven, but very personalized, very tailored, focused on development, connection, as you talked about here. And what I love the picture you're painting, because these individuals aren't just showing up like anyone else. They know more about the company already. They know about the inner workings already and some of the ways you serve customers. They've also started building relationships with good mentors and leaders in the business. So when they come on full time, it's like, hey, guess what? You remember Amy from that course? She's actually starting with us. Like, they get excited all over again. And that person, that individual that's taking that role as an early talent individual, they already have advocates for them placed in the organization because of those relationships they built. I would imagine. I'm making a little bit of assumptions there, but I think it's
absolutely. Yeah. The relationships they built with their leaders, that their other coworkers, peers, but also with each other in the program, because we're intentional about creating those connections for them, bringing them together every week. They start to build their own professional networks that they lean into, and they're excited to see each other, lean into each other. So we see that continue to carry on once once they're here and they continue with that networking from everyone they went through the program with.
Excellent. So you've talked a little about the internship program, how you're connecting with them, everything else. I want to take a broader look for just a minute, if you don't mind, and talk about just overall hiring and some of the things that are struggles for us, all of us out there that are TA leaders and HR leaders trying to figure those things out. It's a challenge. But one of the things I know that's important to you is speed, expediting the hiring process, trying to streamline that and make it more valuable. Talk about your perspective on that, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. So a few years ago, we were looking at market insights, and the ramp up time for interview process to hire to onboarding, it was taking a while and the market was so competitive. And so we wanted to make sure, one, that we were efficient in our processes, but two, the candidate experience is so important in that. And you want to make sure they have a good experience from a timely standpoint as they're going through our process. So we looked at how we were previously interviewing and we adapted our model to what we call an expedited hiring process. And we created an interview panel that had representation of leadership and technical SMEs across different areas of our organization. And we brought them together to conduct interviews versus completing individual interviews with individual teams. And we've gained so many benefits from that. One, in terms of our application to hire, but also we've found so much value because of this panel. We're able to consider candidates for different areas, but then they don't have to interview individually each time. And it expedites the time that they're interviewing to hire. So it's been really effective.
That is tremendous. So some of the data that we're actually sharing later today in the live stream, one of the things we'll talk about is when we surveyed the candidates out there, some global candidate population, we asked them what causes the hiring process to drag on. What do you think is the cause of that? Because I don't see what all we see, right? The number one answer is the company's hiring process. We think the process itself is probably poorly designed, or we've got that manager's like, I've got to have my sixth interview. Oh, come on, please. You're killing me here. I'm trying to help you as a recruiter, and you're making this so much harder on us. So candidates already know generally the hiring process is the thing to point at. But I think that is an incredible insight to have this sort of multi-purpose interview where we can evaluate you for more than one thing. We can have the different personas in the room that need to be looking at this versus saying, come back next week and then come back the week after that. And then we'll tell you if we even want to talk to you beyond that, especially for the in-demand candidates who are highly qualified. They've got more offers than they need. They're not going to put up with that. They're going to be the ones.
Yeah. Good talent goes off the market really fast. So being able to address that and get in front of it, that's been really helpful for us. So for the hiring panel, we're very thoughtful to make sure we have representation that can speak to the strategic initiatives that are going on in our organization and give them kind of a wide lens to all of the things that we're doing across IT. Because when we are hiring someone, we want to hire them for the entity. We want them to come in and be excited about not just this one position on this one team, but think about what your career growth can look like from here. And once you come here, this is just the beginning. We're going to give you exposure to this project and this advancement opportunity as we focus on your development. So I think it also helps create the right mindset as they're coming into the organization for what we want their future career growth to look like.
Yeah. I don't want to call them a resource in a negative way, but like you're a shared asset to the organization, and you may be here for this year, but next year you're going to be over there doing great things wherever you happen to be. And we want you to know that whichever manager picks you, they don't own you. You're here to support the areas that you're excited about and the areas where we need you as an organization. Yeah. So I would imagine, as with any sort of change, there's always a little bit of friction in there trying to get someone to agree to something new and different, which there's all the reasons why they think it might not work. But now looking back, you're like, see, we knew it would have an impact here in a positive way. If someone else is hearing this, okay, we want to follow in your footsteps, Sarah. We want to create a process that maybe shortens that down, is a little more valuable for the candidate, speeds it up for the company. What are 2 or 3 things that they might could do to adapt from the sort of serial sort of interviews that we've always done into a more consolidated approach? What can they do?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's funny, letting go of the individual hiring decisions, that's a little uncomfortable, right? When you're used to hiring talent for your own team, relinquishing that and trusting this panel that we've now established to interview and make the hiring decisions, it was an adjustment. And one thing we did when obviously we created our business case. So we pulled our data points. We pulled what are our challenges that we're facing? What are we trying to solve for? And what can this help us with? And then we started to pull together some stats on what we would expect to see if we implemented this in terms of improving time to fill from applicant to our start dates. And then I think what's really important is identify your key stakeholders. So once you have that data together, figure out where you need to socialize that, where you need to run the idea by people, get feedback, work that into your process. And then with your key stakeholders, take it to them and see if you have their support. And if you do, when you then go start to carry that into larger audiences or larger groups of leaders, you have your advocates to help you champion the cause as you're starting to share this across the organization. For us, that was a critical step, identifying the stakeholders, making sure we had their support, and then bringing that into our other conversations. The second thing we did initially is we proposed it as a pilot. Don't come in and say, we're just going to implement this and this is the way it is. It's, hey, we'd like to try this. These are the benefits we think we can see from it, but we're going to continue to monitor, evaluate. We're going to come back and share that with you. And then we can make a decision on if we continue to implement this model or if we need to then adjust what we're doing.
Excellent. Great advice there. I've written those. So for anyone who's not taking notes, I did. Don't worry. So trust that panel. Get them to trust that panel. You got to really get them to believe in the people around them. Create the business case. Identify your stakeholders. Propose a pilot, which is a sneaky way to say, we're going to try this out just to make sure it works and get everybody else on board. And if we fail small, fine. But if we succeed small, we get a chance to try it on a bigger scale. So I love that approach there. And it gives comfort to the other side. If they're like, I'm not sure about this, you're not putting all the chips on the table and betting it all on black. You're saying, let's try this out and we'll see what happens. One of the conversations I had with someone earlier today, an HR executive, I said, listen, we've got to look at this not as if it doesn't work, this is not an indictment on the recruiting team. This is a process improvement exercise. We're trying to figure out the best approach that's going to lead to better outcomes, not just for you hiring manager or me recruiter or candidate, but for every single one of us as we're trying to move forward and solve these problems. And again, technical talent, you've said it a couple of times. I'll say it again, high demand, hard to compete on that front. And so anything we can do to optimize that, even if it's just 10% better, that's going to increase our chances of getting that one candidate we might not otherwise would have.
Absolutely. Yeah. And lucky for us, as we thought, we saw some early wins and immediately started to see some improvement in the data, which helped us continue to carry that story forward.
Excellent. All right. So if someone has listened to this and someone wants to connect with you, Sarah, learn more about the work that you are doing and the team at Enterprise is doing and really helping to create great experiences there, are you okay if they reach out with you on LinkedIn and connect?
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay, perfect. To everybody else out there, hope you got some good notes, some good ideas from this conversation. I know, as I've already mentioned, I have some great ideas, both on the internship side, as well as speeding up the hiring process. There were some really creative ideas there.
Thank you so much for joining me on the show today. I'm honored to have you as a listener. If you enjoyed this episode, please take 10 seconds to rate it at iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you listen to your podcast. Also, if you know a friend that could benefit from today's conversation, please pass it their way. After all, a rising tide lifts all ships. To see show notes, sponsor information, and our full show archives, visit onlyhumanshow.com.